The Ramsey case may not be important to any big segment of our country, but the implications are that anybody who wants to can manipulate the media or be manipulated by the media into believing the most incredible nonsense.
I got nightmares in my head, I fear thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper. I got nightmares in my head, I fear the thoughts build up until I can't hear, that my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.
Hello and a warm welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. The woman's voice that you heard at the beginning of this clip is Susan Stine, and she went on to apparently write emails impersonating the police chief, Boulder Police Chief Beckner. So you should consider what she's saying in the context of her apparently doing that in 2003, or certainly she admitted doing that in 2003, according to source material from acandyrose.com. I'll put a link to that in the description. Now, in this mini-series, Nothing Is As It Seems, this is part one of a 3 to 4 part series. What we will see is how the darkness clouds everything. But when we change our perspective, just as I've shown you, the change in perspective in Susan Stine saying what she said and then apparently doing what she did, when we simply look at it at a given set of facts differently, it is as though a light switch is turned on. Suddenly the darkness that obscures everything vanishes. Now, if we go back in time, when John Ramsey finds JonBenet, she's in a dark room with the light off, and that's a powerful allegory to this whole case. Probably the light was on in that room, the wine cellar, when JonBenet was placed there with duct tape over her mouth. The door was then closed, secured, and the light turned off. And so when somebody arrives in that room and finds things the way they are, finds JonBenet in darkness, that is not the way the scene originally was. Interestingly, the light in JonBenet's room, the bedside table light, was on when officers investigated that crime scene. And so, it raises a very interesting question. Where did this incident happen in the house? If we reverse the timeline and we ask, how did JonBenet end up in the wine cellar to begin with, we're faced with a question I'm not sure I've ever seen in regards to this case. It's the question I've just asked. Where did the incident happen? Where was JonBenet killed? More specifically, in which room in the Ramsey house did JonBenet die? Have you ever thought about that? You may assume that it's in the basement, but is that assumption correct? And also, which room in the basement? And does it matter? Before we get to that, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. On Patreon, I've put up Chapter 1, the introduction in Chapter 1 of the Day After Christmas audiobook, and I'll be continuing to put up additional chapters through the course of this month. So if you're interested in my audiobooks, there have been some of you who've asked for me to continue putting up. Someone's actually listened to all 21 of them. Well, this is the newest audiobook. I'm going to be trying to put up 3 to 5 per year audiobooks. So look out for that on Patreon on the $10 tier. There are also other audiobooks on that tier as well. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button. And there is also merch at the bottom of the video. Below the video, you can choose from t-shirts, socks, towels, all sorts of things. And let's get started. So there are additional directions the room psychology filter takes us in. For example, we can look at the crime scene and try to link evidence, or we can look at the room, the situation and the circumstances and try to illuminate this question from that perspective. If we decide JonBenet was struck, say, with a flashlight, then it is more likely that she died in the kitchen. If we think that she was struck with a golf club, well, then it's probably more likely that this happened in the basement or perhaps even in the garage. If we think she was struck with a softball bat, and it's again the same kind of psychology, certainly in theory. So the big question is, it's a big house, over 7,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms. In which room in the Ramsey house did the incident occur? Now, I have put up a poll, but it's actually incomplete. It's nowhere near as detailed as it needs to be. And I think there are only 5 options, whereas there need to be around twice as many. Okay, so in which room in the 7,200 square foot Ramsey home did the incident occur? What's your answer? Is it A, the basement train room, B, the basement wine cellar, C, the kitchen, D, the lounge, E, JonBenet's bedroom, F, the kids' playroom, G, Burke's room, H, the parents' room, or I, other? And I, other could be the garage, it could be on stairs, it could be a bathroom, it could be the kids' playroom. There are many other places in the home. Now, if you think about some of those questions, was she killed in the basement wine cellar? That's where she was found. Was she killed in the basement train room? Well, that's very close to the wine cellar. Was she killed in the kitchen? That's where she ate pineapple. Was she killed in the lounge? Well, it was Christmas, and that's a very likely place that JonBenet would have been, late at night, playing with her toys. Apparently that is where Burke was late that night. And it's interesting that John Ramsey carries JonBenet upstairs and puts her on the carpet under the Christmas tree in the lounge. Of all the places he could have placed her, that is in the end where he places her. The other option is, could this have happened in JonBenet's bedroom? Now, if it happened in JonBenet's bedroom, is it likely to be an intruder who did this, or not likely? And then the kids' playroom, where could a kid easily source some of the materials used in this crime, or for that matter, an intruder? Do you see, if the answer is the ground floor or basement, the likelihood of an intruder increases, whereas if the crime scene is on the first or second floor, the likelihood of a family member increases. Let's begin by asking a very basic question. Did something happen to JonBenet during the day or at night? Now, you might think it's such a silly question, but it does start to approach the door to the criminal psychology in this case, because there's a reason that it was done when it was done. It was in order to hide something. Let me say that again. Did it happen at night because someone tried to hide something? What were they trying to hide? Were they trying to hide JonBenet while she's alive? Were they trying to hide noises? Were they trying to hide something in the dark? Or because someone didn't want anyone to hear something? Was it about not seeing something, not hearing something, or both? This is an important question because there are at least 2 dual motives in this case. There's a sexual motive and there's a silencing motive. But according to the ransom note, there is a financial motive and a pluralized political motive that has to do with John and the country John's business serves. Now, that's something we can talk about in more detail in another episode. But in hindsight, since no caller called and no attempt was made to collect a ransom, and based on the mainstream consensus both of the Boulder PD and Team Ramsey, the political motive was a fiction. This strongly suggests the entire ransom note was a fiction. And interestingly, this whole term of a foreign faction came up in a movie of Star Trek that was around very close to the time of the incident. And so it makes sense that the idea of a foreign faction was fictitious.
Who are you with? What faction?
There's a new faction that wants to prevent your launch tomorrow morning.
Star Trek First Contact came out in November 1996, so you might consider it being quite pertinent to this case, certainly this idea being top of mind. But the bottom line being the whole political thing, the whole political motive, the whole idea of a foreign faction, you can see why it's clearly a fiction. Now, before dismissing the note, let's think about this case through the lens of location. I mean, why was the note left where it was? Wasn't it meant to direct your attention away from somewhere else? Bear in mind, there's a body somewhere in the house, and the note is going to alert you to the fact that you need to look for JonBenet. Is the note giving you any indication of where JonBenet is? Which room is she in? Once again, let's remember the crime happened after midnight, early in the morning on the day after Christmas, in spite of the date on JonBenet's gravestone, perhaps also a misdirection. In summary, we can highlight around 10 location markers, and these are the following. 1. Ransom note on spiral stairs. 2. Flashlight in kitchen. 3. Pineapple in kitchen. 4. Suitcase, basement window in basement. 5. Window splinter on carpet outside window cellar. 6. Paint tray and knife, that's kind of a Swiss Army knife, in the basement. 7. Baseball bat with carpet fibers in garden. 8. Green tinsel or foil found in JonBenet's hair. 9. JonBenet found wearing oversized bloomers from JonBenet's bedroom drawer in wine cellar. 10. White comforter from dryer and white sequin star top. I'm not going to take it further than that. In the next analysis, we'll look at each of these markers in turn. But what I want you to do in the meantime is think about where in the Ramsey home you think this crime is more likely to have taken place. Given the evidence that is out there, where in the house do you think is the strongest likelihood for this crime to have occurred? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.